Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm glad to see you all here for yet another insightful webinar on API security with Prophaze. So I'll be your host for this session, and today in this symposium, we will share some important revelations on API security problems, facts, and how and Prophaze is addressing them all. So I also want to bring your attention to some housekeeping guidelines. Kindly be informed. So you have to mute yourself, okay, and turn off all other devices if you can. Use the chat window to communicate with us. Whatever the questions you are having, you can just drop your questions, and we will be monitoring and responding to all the queries at the end. So we have a list of panelists for our webinar today, and I will begin with an introduction. My name is Shruti Sood, and I manage Inside Sales for Prophaze. And after that, Mr. Baidyanath, Group CISO of JK Lakshmi Cement, he will give a keynote address. Ms. Lakshmi Das, she's a co-founder of Prophaze, and she will give then a session address. Mr. Nishan Kalia will follow with more important information on API security, and Joe will present a product demo. And the question answer session will be the last one. And Mr. Vaishak, the founder and the CEO of Prophaze, he will participate in the same. So I'll now welcome Mr. Baidyanath for his keynote address. I would like to give some little introduction about him. Mr. Baidyanath is a Chief Information Security Officer and Data Protection Officer at JK Lakshmi Cement. He's a part of prestigious JK organization, and in his role, Baidyanath is passionate about CISO as a service, cyber program threat management, identity as a service, cyber resilience, privacy, and next generation security operations center. With over a decade of extensive experience in the cybersecurity domain, Baidyanath has played a crucial role in establishing information security policies and objectives, evaluating performances, and driving continuity in various e-government projects of GOI. So I would like to invite you, sir, Mr. Baidyanath, sir, for his keynote address, please.
Yep. Hope I am clearly audible, Shruti. Hello.
Sorry.
Yeah, hope I am clearly audible.
Yeah.
Okay, so thanks, Shruti, for setting up the context. Okay, so I am Baidyanath, CISO at JK Lakshmi Cement. So part of prestigious JK Lakshmi Cement is part of prestigious JK organization. So yeah, 125 years old legacy, right? And we deal into manufacturing sector. So now to start with the topic of discussion today. So just I'm sharing my screen. Hope my screen is visible to all of you.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we talk about API security, right? So the world is moving towards Web 3.0, right? We have seen that also. And even the transactions going to HTTP 3 protocol, right? And there are inherent security risks with adopting the security web application related things and all. And with a digital acceleration, we are getting digitized, right? And a lot of application which are there on the internet, and how even through the APIs they are interacting, right? And what are the security controls? Those all needs to be understood completely before launching an application on the internet. So why API security is something which is very important topic of discussion, and the way it is creating a problem to the organization if it is not clearly defined and implemented in a good manner. And in today's discussion, even I will try to make you understand through a practical scenario in terms of showing you how APIs interact and what is the API security requirements, right? So when we talk about API, so these have something when we talk about any two software applications interacting together. So APIs are something which are doing that job, right? And for example, let's suppose you are logging into your ICICI Bank application or any net banking platform. And from there, you are navigating to see your tax related data, right? So you are just navigating from one site to other website. And at the same time, your data in terms of your, particularly in those API requests, your sensitive information is getting transformed from one application to other application, getting transmitted from one application to other application. And that's why there is a requirement that how that data which is getting transmitted through APIs are secured, controlled, right? And how the confidentiality, integrity of the data is going to be controlled, right? So this is something which is very important. We will see into that. Okay, so now when we talk about the importance of API security, it is pertinent to safeguard the sensitive data, preventing any sort of unauthorized access so that it can be tempered or misused to access some other data, right? Or data of anybody else in an unauthorized manner. So it is two parties. When we talk about in any API consumption, two parties are involved. One who has developed that application programming interface and one who is going to consume that, right? And that's why it is very important that whatever the data set and information which is getting exchanged through the APIs, how it is getting protected, right? Whether those things, those security checks are in place to safeguard that data transmission, leading to some sort of financial losses or reputational damage also. So let's suppose if any GSTN or income tax data of its citizen is getting accessed in unauthorized manner, or it is for example for your TDS statement or your ITR related information, so then it is going to create a problem, right? Why? Because you have not accessed it by your login credentials, but it somehow it is getting accessed. So we'll see that also. So that's why importance of API security is something which we need to understand in depth, and how we are going to implement the controls also. So when we talk about the API security related challenges and vulnerabilities, okay, so this is very important to understand how application is having sort of controls implemented in terms of proper authentication and authorization related checks. When we talk about the authentication checks, whether your application is having that password authentication followed by your two-factor authentication or MFA, right? What are the mechanism which has been developed? Is there any bypass? For example, OTP check is implemented, so somebody is going to bypass that OTP check. Okay, so that is something which we need to understand, how that application is having all those checks implemented, right? When HTTP request and HTTP response, we are going to see those all things, because from the front end, and when you are interacting with the application, you just see the front end, but you are not able to see the dark side of that, or how the basically the backend side of that, how HTTP requests are getting transmitted, right, and to the server, and how a response is also coming from the server side. So those all things we need to understand. And once that authentication is correctly mapped, then how authorized users are only able to access the application. So basically it should not be getting somehow tempered to give access to unauthorized users also. So the common API security related vulnerabilities, when we are talking about, we'll see the authentication and authorization related issues just because of weak authentication and improper authorization mechanisms. Even the input validations issues and all, right? When there is no appropriate input validation controls, that how it is going to be misused, injection related problems and all. Then denial of service attacks. For example, your API, somebody is consuming your API, and you don't have, if you have implemented a API gateway, right, to handle the transactions, right, and if that is getting somehow bombarded with DOS attack or something like that, then it will be getting you can say that thwarted for the legitimate users. So how you are going to implement the checks that okay, from these particular IP addresses or these particular sources in a particular time frame, these many requests can be handled. So those all important checks should be there. So are we thinking on those lines, right? To put all the important checks that we can mitigate these common API security vulnerabilities, right? Whether in terms of error handling, in terms of authentication and authorization issues, putting right set of security controls by placing the headers and all, then injection attacks, all those things. So just before going further, we'll see that in a practical scenario also. Just I am going to show you also how we have to understand the API security in a better way, and how, and then we will discuss what are the important checks and balances which organizations should focus to implement that. So I have already made this ready. So if you can see, this is a attacking tool, burp suite, right? So if I'm going to, I'm just going to use the burp browser. This is a burp suite is basically a application security penetration tool, which is used by even hackers and even your you can say that defensive security team to do some sort of penetration tests, right? To see that, okay, whether applications, web pages, everything is secured or not, or whether even the API communications. We'll see in this case, because today's topic of discussion is API security. So we'll try to understand how API communication should be secured, right? Because it is just a connection between two different software applications. So let's suppose if I am accessing any application, let's suppose I will log in into my bank application. So you can see here, ICICIbank.com, and it is not getting open from normal browser. I am basically intercepting this request. So you can see that so before transmitting the data to the server, I am intercepting as a hacker and try to see that how the communications happen, right? So I am
link
to...
Please mute.
I hope I am clearly audible to all of you guys.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So you can see that I have logged into my net banking application, right? And from here, I will try to see that, okay, because there is a mechanism that you can even see your tax related information from any net banking application itself, right? So we'll navigate to tax center. So if you go to payments and transfer and click on your net banking, so you can go to the tax center also. So now if you can see that why this is, you can directly log in into your tax accounts, your e-filing accounts, your Form 26S accounts to see that your Form 26 related data. But then why this API communication? Because this is going to ease your job, right? You don't need to register at one place. You don't need to register at income tax site also. Then also you can fetch your 26A's data because you have your login net banking credentials, right? And each of us is having that thing, right? So it is something which provide you an easier access in this digital realm. Okay, so now if I'm going to click, so let's suppose you see that here. So the moment I'm clicking on view button, so obviously just see that requests and all. So these till this time I'm on the same page. I'm on the banking page itself. Okay, so it has prompted me for one-time password to validate that, okay, I am accessing this sensitive data, but this is the check at that application side itself. I have not redirected to the income tax side because it can't generate the data by itself, right? It has to query to income tax database through a API request. Hope that is clear. So till this page also, you can see that this is on the same page, right? ICICIbank.com, right? So here you can see that my PAN number is something which is in the masked format and at the banking side itself. So why at this side itself? Because even the bank is taking care of those security that I should not be changing this PAN and trying to submit the data at the income tax side, and so that it can be some sort of unauthorized display of 26S data or ITR any ITR related information of other user, because I have logged into my account. So I am liable to see, I am authorized to see my data only, right? Form 26S data, because that integration is already there through the API communication. Now, so this field itself, you can see that it is something where you can't change that, right? Now, when the moment I'm going to submit this data, let's see what I'm going to do. I'm just going to intercept this page and trying to submit the data. Now you can see that the redirection, I have something which is I am controlling, and I can see that. I hope you are able to see that this is the complete set of information in terms of signed data, which is traveling from banking application to your income tax site. But till now, if you can see the host is banking application itself, right? iccibank.co.in, and along with this JSP is invoking this call. Along with that, if I have filtered my PAN, I can see my PAN information is as part of the signed data, but you can't see that what are the requests. So there is a referral URL check, and even referral URL check to query the income tax URL, right? And then is a bank code, and then followed by your signed data and all those things. So the moment I will be forwarding it, so it means I am releasing it to the bank application. You can see here. And the moment I have clicked here, it has gone to a new URL. Hope till now everyone is understanding, right, what is happening here. Okay, so you can see in the front end also, this page, the moment I'm forwarding it, it has landed to this different application. So this is something where API interaction is there. So who is consumer here? ICICI Bank. And who is the provider here? Income tax application. So it has landed to services application. You can see that my PAN along with the signed data. That's all you can see. Now, if I will try to tamper my PAN with some other PAN number, what should happen? It should have that check that, okay, I should not be validating this PAN and allowing that access or unauthorized sort of tampering, right? So let me show you first without tampering. Right now you can see that call has landed to the bank application. Okay, so these all calls I'm forwarding to the server, and in the browser I can see I have landed to the income tax side. So from bank side, but what all four calls, those even hackers can see, these were the four calls which I were talking about, which I had intercepted there, which is already there in my HTTP history also, right, with the parameter set and all. But the moment I have released those calls, it is something which is able to, I was intercepting, then I was able to land to the page. Now the moment I will go here and click on this, it will show my data, right? So it is something where you can see your data. Now what if the security check is not there, proper authentication and authorization check, whatever I'm talking about is not there. Let's understand that what a hacker is going to do is just using, let me see the timing and all. Okay, it's the updated one. So this is the last call, post call. Why post method? So even you can see that. So these all WAF, what is the purpose of the next gen WAFs and all? So WAF is able to, WAF is very near to application. It understands the application in the same way, like you are seeing here. Okay, it can look into all sort of the methods, access control, authentication, authorization checks, not in that level where dash tools can do, but obviously that sanitization part in terms of the method is what are the allow method, how you can control your APIs flows, those all checks you can implement. Now, the moment this is the call, I will be sending it to repeater so that I am making it free from the browser, the way hackers do. Right? Just a second. Now, I go to that. Just a second. I need to stop share to go to that button. Just a second. I'm sharing it again. I am sharing my screen again. So if you see now, this request I have sent it to repeater, right? And from here, independent of the browser. So this request, when I'm going to send it again, so you can see that you can't do that. This request where you can see that it is already redirected. Okay. Now, let's suppose if I'm changing my PAN to some other PAN, you can see here this PAN is visible in the request. This is my PAN number. If I am changing it to some other PAN number, for example, I am doing the tempering part. Okay, so then also it will not show that also the others data. So let's suppose while traversing the data itself, if I'm trying to see the others data, let's suppose I am making a logout here and coming again to the ICICI bank page, just removing that. Okay, check. Log in again. So stop sharing the screen. Just I'm logging into my net banking credentials. Now I'm sharing my screen. So I'm coming to tax center again. Okay. Clicking here, it is asking me for one-time password 60616. So for the last time, it is again asking the same way. It is asking me to validate and confirm my PAN details before submitting. Let's suppose again I am going to intercept this request. Okay. We'll show you here quickly. I am going to, before getting it transmitted to the other side, to the here was my PAN. I am changing it with some random in the same sequence. So it is a valid PAN format which I have changed. Okay. So you can see that also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right. So, but this is not my PAN now. So whether if the system is so what I'm trying to say, if that system is not having that appropriate check implemented to validate the PAN number, whatever is getting trans and all with the valid tokens which has been generated for me, it is going to show the data for that changed PAN, altered PAN. So I have sent that, and you can see that error has come here in the API itself. Services.tdscpc.income tax site has not validated that. It has because it has says that tempering and auth error, and at the front end user will be real. So hope it is clear to you. Let's check implemented. I can just you can put your message in chat as well. Hope it is clear to you, or you want anything further explanations how API security needs to be implemented, right? So this was something where I was talking on the one important check, right? So you can see here. So this is something where we need to understand it practically, not just how API security theoretically works, and any security control theoretically works. So here that check was there, which thwarted me to change that PAN while transmitting the data. So this check is already there, right? At the bank side also, where you have seen that the tempering is not possible, and at the same time at the income tax side also, where both the parties have implemented those appropriate security checks, right? So Lakshmi, I will take a pause. Hope it was clear, or you want me to add further? Otherwise, I will discuss further on my slides. Hello, Lakshmi. Hope I am clearly audible to you all.
Yeah, Mr. Baidyanath, I think everyone is clear.
Yes.
Yeah, they are putting up the messages on the chat also, very clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So that's the message I wanted to conclude. So why API security is required? What are the common vulnerabilities? Now, quickly, let's see that what are the best practices also. Okay. So what are the best practices? The way injection attempts can happen, right, from the front side or the front end or back end also. So those checks should be implemented, where we talk about the input validation, sanitization of the inputs, whatever we are making to application. At the same time, the server side validation should be very strong, strong authentication and authorization mechanisms, and finally how we are going to validate that. Okay, so that's why frequent assessments is required, penetration testing is required. And when we talk about the code level vulnerabilities, okay, framework related vulnerabilities, SAST checks are required. Okay, so when in security we call it as SAST and DAST checks. Okay, so SAST and DAST assessments are very important and pertinent in any API security can say that overall design to implementation. Now, so we need to understand that was something where I was talking about. You need to see that how API securities are getting implemented, they are getting breached. We need to learn from the real world class example also, that and we need to understand the tactics, techniques, and all those things. So those things are very important. So the important thing is that how we are designing a solution, and how even maintaining the application security. Okay, so we first of all we have to understand what are the OWASP top 10 security requirements. Okay, whether we are adhering to that or not. As a development team, are we doing all sort of best practices implementation, right? When we talk about SAS checks, DASH checks, peer reviews, all things are well implemented or not. And that's how. And even the API security controls in terms of putting the web application firewalls with the right set of controls. Okay, when we are installing the web application firewall, are we tuning that to look into the HTTP2 requests also, or HTTP3 request lately, right? So those things are very important, that the application you have developed, whether it is supporting HTTP 1.1 or HTTP 2 or 3. So those that way you need to customize your WAAPs also, so that it is going to be more productive in your environment, and doing a more value add sense of it, right? So with that all, I want to take a pause, and over to you, Lakshmi, to take it forward. Hope it was insightful.
Yes, thank you, Baidyanath. So indeed, it was a great session, a lot of insights, and you did cover, the practical aspects of why API security is important, and where all, it does come in the day-to-day aspects that we deal with on, like, for example, the banking applications that you showed, right? Definitely. So it was indeed insightful, and I'm sure that the audience had a lot to take away and they should have felt that this session was really great for them too. So thank you, Baidyanath. Thanks for joining. So now let me take over to just address a quick session address on why and where. So I'm sure most of the things have been covered by Baidyanath. So we'll just quickly go over to the next. We'll skip this poll, so we can go to the session address with respect taking into consideration the time aspect of the webinar. Okay, so we're all so how are we actually having APIs? So in the practical sense, from the mobiles that we use to the mobile applications, the web applications, everywhere APIs are really coming into picture, right? So if you take a look into the payment gateways, you book a movie ticket, you go to social media, everywhere we have APIs, because APIs allow apps to access and manipulate data from the external sources. Even if you go to the e-commerce platforms, so if you go to PayPal, all of these kind of things, APIs like PayPal is actually being used for a payment gateways. Also for the inventory management in the e-commerce platforms, right? All of this also use APIs to synchronize the inventory data with the suppliers and the track product availability. Now, how about the social media that we all use, be it the Facebook, the Twitter, the LinkedIn, Instagram, all of these, I mean, we feel that it's just the outer layer that's coming into picture, but what is actually happening beneath? I mean, the underlying aspects of communication. So that again is happening through APIs that allow the users to share the content from a third-party application and website. Even the user authentication do happen through APIs, right? So this is about the social media, but how about the fintech and the finance? So Baidyanath just showed us, how the banking applications also use APIs to communicate. So not just for that, even your investment and the trading, the stock markets APIs, they provide the real-time market data, right? So these are the ways, APIs are really, bringing a lot of meaning into all of our lives. So which we might have not even, thought about. And what about the most critical aspect of our daily lives? That is healthcare. So we get all our automated health records, right? So even all these electronic health records use APIs to integrate these records so that the patient data can be shared between the providers, the labs, the pharmacies, and all the the platforms, that telehealth platform where we all have the flexibility of calling us and doing online consultations. So for all the video conferencing, we definitely do use APIs, right? So that is really a have we all really thought about that APIs are really being a part of here. Now what about even the IoTs? So trillions of IoTs are actually coming into picture, right? So where all these APIs, the interconnect devices, all of them rely on API to actually exchange data and also control the devices remotely. So even for data analysis, for these IoTs, we definitely rely on these APIs. So not even all the other aspects, be it travel, hospitality, retail, education, or be it the government or the public service domains. None of these domains are actually devoid of the practical application of API. So I'm sure with life becoming easier with the use of APIs, so does it introduce a lot of challenges. For example, if the APIs are not properly authenticated, then this can pose a challenge. And so authentication becomes a major challenge. Authorization. So we should ensure that only the authorized people should have the access to perform the necessary actions. And also, we should really consider about implementing rate limiting to restrict the number of requests on the API consumers, and also ensure data encryption comes into place when the API client and server communicate. And another aspect is the input that the data that is actually fed into the system. The input proper input validation should also be implemented, and also each and every endpoint should be secure. So that because otherwise all the data is definitely prone to leakage, and all these endpoints are prone to attacks, right? Definitely another thing is implementing proper API versioning and implementing robust logging and monitoring to detect and respond to security incidents, right? So all of these are the few, I mean, these are just a few challenges that API security, API, as a landscape has actually brought into picture. So, I would now like to invite Nishant to explain about the best API security challenge, I mean, practices that can actually be implemented so that we have a safe and robust system. So let's want to hear what's more insightful from Nishant. And don't go anywhere. So we definitely have a really great dashboard demonstration by Mr. Joe, which will be followed by a Q&A. So stay tuned till the end. Thank you. So Nishant, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Lakshmi. So, hi everyone. Very good afternoon. So, I think I was not expecting that Mr. Baidyanath has, practically completed most of the pointers, which I wanted to discuss. So I'm glad, my job will be pretty easy. So in terms of authorization and authentications pointers, which he has specifically discussed, and how the, SAST and DAS tools, are an old legacy tools, which has to be replaced by next generation firewalls and all. So yeah, so absolutely. So right now, when we talk about APIs, one thing is for sure that there are a lot of API calls are happening on the backend side, and the way they are communicating to each other, and the way it's working on a distributed ecosystem. We are looking for a distributed WAAP, for a DevOps WAAP, which can go inside to the next level and can sit very close to the application or the APIs, and can understand not only from the external transactions which are happening, but what are the transactions happening on the backend side with the web servers also, on the API parts. That is also very important. So I think that's where Prophaze plays a very crucial role. Yeah, can you go to next slide? Yeah, so what are some of the most common API security best practices are there? So of course we always use use tokens. We should always use tokens, use encryptions and signatures. And always identify the vulnerabilities. What kind of vulnerabilities are there? Constant patching should happen. Use the quotas and throttling. And use of an API gateways is one of the most prominent things which has happened, in the API security world, where we can understand that how what kind of access is there to other stakeholders and other admins, where multiple access are there, and APIs can be managed very smoothly and seamlessly. Yes, can we go to next one, please? Yeah. Also, when we talk about API management and security, an API key, basic authentication, OpenID Connect, where when, of course, all those OpenID, when we log in through our Gmail accounts and, our access accounts, so we have to make sure that how we are managing the, APIs. So managing the APIs keys and all those authentications through OAuth and everything has to be made sure when we talk about the complete management and security. So I'm not going too much deep dive into it, but just for the sake of, I'm more on the revision side, what Mr. Baidyanath has talked about. Yes, can we go to the next one, please? Yeah, so when you talk about securing APIs, right? So this is the whole life cycle where it shows that how, finally an API is landing, so on the right-hand side, you can see that, finally how the APIs got secured, right? So the first step is going to be, the authentication authorization, right? Where who is getting access to an application and what kind of application is getting accessed, right? So where or APIs are getting access, right? So that has to be made sure when we talk about the authentication and authorization. And, then of course, the messaging security will come into the picture, right? Then of course, all the threat protections will come into the picture, then all the concept filtering, rate limitings, so this is a complete process, how it works. And finally, the secured APIs will be going on the right hand side, so you can see from the diagram where the IoT is also there in the between, how they are communicating with all the different APIs, and how we can implement all the controls, through this process. Can we go to next one, please? Right. So when we talk about, SAML or single sign-on, right? So that's where, we have to make sure that what kind of authorizations we are using, single sign-on we are using, right?
We can wait for 1 minute.
We are not able to hear. Any problems with the audio?
Cannot hear, please.
Yeah, you can. I think there's a problem with the Nishant connection. You can go ahead with the slides.
So he's joining, He's coming back. There is a network issue actually.
Yeah, sorry for that. My just net got some interruption. Yeah, so I was talking about the OpenID Connect, where we can have our Gmail access directly and we can log in and all the single sign-ons, right? So when we talk about authorization and authentication, it plays a very crucial role, right? So yeah, can you go to next slide, please? Yeah, so this is how the licensing happens, so you have to package your APIs in different ways, that's where Mr. Baidyanath was talking about, that how you're designing a solution, right? So the licenses control is very important, where you have a document visibility, the quota policies which you are mentioning, and then OAuth authorization scopes which you are presenting, right? So that licenses plays a very crucial role when you are performing all the controls. Yeah, can we go to next one, please? And of course, as I mentioned, that API gateways is one of the most crucial things, in the API security, that, you can see, and a particular APIs or different APIs are getting access through mobile apps, and through web apps, the partners are accessing, the stakeholders are accessing, right? So there are a lot of, lot of orchestration is happening on the backend side, and a lot of scripting has to be done. So so API gateways can make the process very easily, where different people can have a different access when they're accessing all those APIs. Can we go to next one? Yeah, so I already just talked about the quota management and rate limiting, right? So you have to restrict the number of calls an app can make, and apply control based on context, affinity, segmentation, etc. Right? So that is very important and crucial point, right? Why to first create a lot of API calls on the backend side, and then on top of it, define the solution. It's better to design or make calls in such a way that we can always keep it on the limitations and do the rate limiting. And then on top of it, we can always put the controls depending on what kind of segmentations and context is being defined. Yeah, can you go to next one? So right, so content threads and all those things are there, where we can provide a content firewall protecting against the malicious content, validate the message content, including the message headers, forms, query parameters, through XML, JSONs, and data structures. and policies for XML and JSON DOS. So, and all those things can be managed, against any kind of antivirus, where the leading antivirus engines can help you and protect against all the malicious content. Yeah, can we go to the next one? So right now, when we talk about next generation firewalls, that's where a lot of those protections, or we generally called it terminology called WAAP. Gartner has coined a new term which is called WAAP, Web Application API Security. So until unless if you don't have a WAAP plus advanced mechanism on the AML technology, zero trust technology, the RASP technology, the runtime application self-protection, you can't call yourself, 3.0 technology, or, a Web 3.0, or on the WAP 3.0 technology. So, in order to be in that streamline, you have to make sure that how you're securing your firewall, and expanding the whole scope, and giving a completely security depth, and protecting your applications on the layer 7 of the OSI model. Yeah, can you go to the next one? So why WAP security is important, right? So as I just mentioned, in a few glimpses, that one of the most important factor is that today, in today's world, we are in the 6G and 5G world, right? The applications are very, very dynamic right now, and day in, day out, a lot of changes are happening, and very crucial changes are happening, right? So we can't afford the authentications errors, or the broken authentication attacks and all. So we have to make sure that the solution which you're using, or in order to say that the WAP technology which you're using should be evolving, should understand, should also be a dynamic, and should change as per the application, which is nothing much more but like a security by design, or you can say an event-driven architecture. When the events are changing on the application side, the architecture should also change as per the events, and should understand the real-time scenarios of the attacks which are happening. So post-based blocking doesn't work, right? If you are taking an action once the attack has happened, then then there is no point of doing that. It's only you just increasing the incident life cycle, and just creating more chaos, and trying to fix the changes, which is practically creating more and more of loopholes. HTTP traffic can be complex, right? So when we talk about the complexities, so conventional, when you talk about different kind of TCP, UDP attacks, or whatever, right? When we talk about the HTTP or HTTPS, it's more crucial, more complex, and already encrypted, where the encrypted traffic is there. So you need to have an inspection, one layer of inspection on top of it, which is coming through encryption. Yeah, can you go to the next one, please? So now web application and API protection key capabilities are there. When we talk about the automation, the intelligence is there. The RASP capabilities I've talked about, the distributed denial of services protection is there. So there are a lot of products out there into the market which talk about the DOS, but and when we talk about the DDoS, distributed attacks, from different IPs across the globe, and the fraction of seconds, it can create the choke the pipeline, and millions of requests are landing in fraction of seconds, right? So one of the problems statements which we are addressing is that where the scalability issues, right? How soon your WAP can scale up, as in whole platform can absorb the whole traffic, and can distribute and bifurcate between a good bots or bad bots, right? So that's where you will be requiring a next level of application firewall with the API protection capabilities. So right now, of course, when we talk about normal attacks, on the APIs also, if you're going for an API security, you would be requiring a DDoS solution also, and a DDoS can happen on the APIs as well. And and of course, the choking the pipeline after that API scrapping can happen, right? So you need an advanced rate limiting concepts where next generation WAPs are capable of. Yeah, can we go to the next one, please? Yeah, so achieving the WAP security with Prophaze, right? So how we are going to achieve that, it will be shown in the next slide. Yes, yeah. So what we are mentioning here is that that it's a bundle of solutions where all umbrella features you will be getting in a single shot. You don't have to look for something else. You're looking for an API security. On top of it, you're looking for a DDoS solution. We can integrate our DDoS mechanism with your API security. At the same time, we'll make sure that it's a completely behavioral based API security protection is there, then we can always write the security policies, make it more and more customized, do the code level changes at the kernel side, and make the experience completely, a user-friendly experience, on the use case behavior basis. So that's our whole idea, is that when we talk about the WAAP technology, web application API security, all these technologies are by default needed, to support the API, wherein with Prophaze you can get it on the next generation firewall. Yeah. Can we go to the next one? Yeah. So I think there was one slide which was missed. Yeah. So so finally, as in platform, when we talk about application security, it's a behavioral based security. Layer 7 DDoS protection is there. Multi-cloud application security is there. CDN, we can always expect a CDN POP is there. Authoritative DNS security is there. Bot protection solution, on-premise security is there, and global DNS load balancer is there. So it's a complete platform, and plus, of course, the WAF component is also involved into it. In the whole solution. Yeah, can we go to the next one? Yeah, and finally, I think we've been doing webinars and all those things. So we have been nominated as most innovative product company of the year by Data Security Council of India. Last year, it was an AISS event. It was a All India Security Summit where we participated, and it was a cutthroat competition where we won out of 200 companies. And Kapinger Code is one of the most known name right now into the market, shoulder to shoulder competition with Gartner, where we came as an innovation leaders last year. So I think that's it from my side. So if you have any questions and any things, we can always discuss on that at the end of the session. Thank you so much. Over to you, Lakshmi. Yeah, so I think Joe, you can just take the things and you can just explain.
Yeah, sure. Let me go through that.
So now Joe will be quickly showcasing how Prophaze dashboard has the API security aspect on a live mode. Thank you. So please keep tuned.
Yeah, I hope my screen is visible, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So right now I'm going to take you through, how our dashboard with respect to, specific to API security works, and how our API discovery module works as well. So right now we can see this is the API dashboard. So we can see petstore.qbaf.com. This is one of our domains. And we can see a second, drop down here as well. So we can see it is a / and / petstore. And here we can see multiple domains as well. So what extra granularity it brings is, not just applying the WAAP rules and all the customization just to the domain names, we are also applying it to the specific API paths as well. So we'll get more control and more input validations, and more security with respect to APIs are achieved in this space. And how we onboard a domain is, so if you go to the settings page right here, and if we onboard a domain, so let's say we need to onboard like an example.com, right? api.example.com. And we will give the full domain name. Even though multiple APIs are hosted behind this single domain, we can just give the FQDN here. And, you can give the load balancer or the public IP address through which this API service can be reached. I'm just giving an example IP address here. And you can select the region through which it needs to be routed through. So this is one of our test accounts. So we have a test region to be routed through. So we can select that. And it shows like, what changes needs to be done on the DNS side so that we can route all the traffic through Prophaze servers. And from there, we'll forward it to the backend application or the API server. And once that is done, we will have full HTTPS redirection as well. So once you click on create, the domain is onboarded. So once we onboard a domain, this is where usually, the regular WAF legacy WAF stop, right? So now what we bring to the table is like the extra granularity with respect to APIs and API security. So if you go to the configure API gateway section here under settings, you can onboard multiple API paths as well. So manually, right, our automated system shows the API discovered paths that will take you through in a second, but manually you can onboard multiple domains, multiple API endpoints as well. So let's say you have a domain like for the domain api.example.com, you have an API endpoint to create an account. So we say create account, and this can be the endpoint, and where the endpoint is hosted. So this can be hosted on a different public IP altogether, right? And still can be called through api.example.com and /create account. So it has this capability of an API gateway so that it can route the traffic to the multiple servers and also protect the servers as well. And if you go to the configure domain section, we can see we have like this, for example, we have onboarded Prophaze.com, and the root path is pointed to a specific IP, but the WP JSON path, which is an API used by WordPress, can be pointed to a totally different IP as well. So these two will act as independent API paths, and all the machine learning modules, the granularity that we bring to the table, right? It will also be accessible and applicable to these APIs as well. So we can see petstore.qwaf.com is also onboarded, where we have hosted petstore. That's an example API suite that we use to test the API functionalities and all that. So that option is also there. So this is the overall, overview of the API dashboard. And next I can take you through, the API discovery module as well. So let me just share my screen. Okay. So this was, okay. Yeah. So let me take you through the recording of the API discovery module. So we can say that petstore.qwaf.com is onboarded on the WAF, right? And we can see a regular amount of traffic is on this, and it is onboarded on a specific region as well. So on top of that, you can see two new tabs that are available, like API traffic logs and API discovery module. So what this does is all the traffic analysis that we have done with respect to API discovery and API traffic logs are displayed here. So if we move on to the next section, so we can see this is the petstore.qwaf.com, which we have hosted on one of our public servers. And petstore is like a like a boilerplate API system that we can use to test how APIs works and the different functionalities it offers. So we can see that for petstore, it's an open source API system available. Okay. And we can see multiple API paths are there, like /pet, /store, /pet, find the specific unit as well. So all these different API paths are available. So what we did is, to selected paths, we have sent traffic, so that how our system will detect if certain APIs are detected. So there are multiple paths available here. So to selected few paths, we have sent considerable amount of traffic as well. So if you go to the API logs, traffic logs, right? So here we can see all the logs coming into this petstore.qwaf.com, and this is the first level, right? This have all the generic logs. So this will have all the path specific logs attached to it. So we can see, like well-known Acme challenge. So that's the certificate renewal path as well. We can also see some petstore testing random path as well. So we can see the status code is 404. So all those data is being collected and being analyzed by the system. And at the lower end of the table, you can see, petstore order inventory and, petstore store order. So all these are returning 200 status codes. This means, those API paths are present, and it returned a OK status codes as well. And there are certain paths which did not forward with the proper status code as well. So all these data points are collected by the system in order to discover the APIs behind it. So if you go to the API discovery module up top, right? So this will show us, the API that has been discovered by the system as well. So we can see it has filtered out certain amount of traffic coming in. So we could see like PNG files being loaded. Those are not part of the APIs, right? Those are like graphics and assets with respect to an application. So that does not come under API protection. And also like the LACME challenges, ACME challenges used for certificate renewals and all. So all those has been filtered out, and only the correct API paths has been discovered, and we can see pet store this is being stored, is being shown here as well. And all the different API paths that are available are also being shown. And directly we have an option to do API security, directly implement, secure the API endpoint, or to rate limit the API endpoint as well. And we can also see the different HTTP methods attached to it, and all this data is being shown, and how it was detected is being shown on the dashboard. So that's how the discovery module works as well. So after that, you can directly click on secure API endpoint, and it will apply all the all the API specific rules, all the API specific paths as well onto that. And we can also do a rate limiting of that based on single endpoints as well. So yeah, that's it. That's regarding the API discovery module and the API WAAP that we have. Yeah, we can go on to the next section.
Yeah, thank you, Joe, for illuminating presentation, and I'm sure it was really beneficial for the audience to listen to, and they will for sure be able to learn some very valuable things out of this. Thank you once again. So now it's a time for polling. So I want you everyone to pay attention to your displays, and there will be some questions displayed there. Please answer them, and it will take 5 minutes to start it and end it. So we can start it now. So our poll will be end within 5 minutes.
So how's the progress of the poll?
So it's 78% now.
Okay, guys. So requesting all of you to quickly participate. Okay, so I guess maybe we can wind up and move on to the Q&A, that we can address the questions that the audience have.
So the time is up almost. So thank you for your participation. Now, I just wanted to hand over. Now, the next round will be the Q&A, and for this, I would like to invite Mr. Vaishak. He's the founder and CEO of Prophaze. So I just wanted to hand it over to Vaishak, who is at JITEX. So, Mr. Vaishak, sir, please. Okay. Yeah, very less. We cannot hear you.
Yeah, can you, one second. Yeah, can you hear me now? Is it much better?
Yes,
Is it audible
yes,
right now?
it's audible. It's audible. Perfect.
Yeah. Now it's okay.
Thanks very much, Mr. Baidyanath, for the excellent session, practical demonstration, and the entire teammate of Prophaze showing the entire landscape of API security. So, and of course, last but not the least, for the audience who visited for their valuable time on listening to what Prophaze can add value to the entire API security ecosystem. Yeah. So great. I mean, this is a great session, and when Joe was explaining about the API discovery part, I remember an incident when I talking with one of a customer, a very top line customer. I was explaining API security aspect. He said, "Hey, Vaishak, stop. I just want to know what are my APIs are. I want to discover my unknown APIs. So can you help me? Then we can talk about security. I mean, that's the extent where the APIs has been deployed throughout, and documentations are not available. So it's a big landscape to secure. So that is where the entire team is entire Prophaze product is helping to work on it. So great. So our team is at Jitex today. So Jitex Dubai right now. So of course, a great audience here as well. So I think many of your teammates might be traveling to Dubai as well. So it's great to see everyone here also. So of course, everywhere, they can see the buzz of the API security and how the security now. Every tech event is turning out to be a security event. That's where people are more focusing on the security side than anything else. That's where the entire technology goes on. So that is from my side. So thanks a lot. Yeah.
We have one question from Chanchal. Which vertical of customers are appropriate for this?
See, I mean, APIs are irrespective of any vertical. APIs has been used even in IoTs and all the apps and wherever, right? Wherever there's a web applications and APIs are being used extensively. So it's not confined to any vertical. But to answer your question, of course, the financial industry, the financial industries and fintech applications are very, by law, they are compliant to having good API security posture. That's where we see most of the traction. So I hope, yeah.
So do we have any other questions?
So if you have any question, you can just post it on chat, or either you can speak up also. So the question is, do you ever use Postman for testing?
Maybe that question is for the developers. Of course, I can see that many developers use Postman for testing and all. Yeah, correct. I mean, I don't know which context it's been asked, but in general, I can see that many developers of many applications use that. Yeah, correct. But of course, there are multiple tools on a different levels to do a rigorous API testing or with respect to API security as well.
And after that, he's asking, like, how does the pricing work for this?
Yeah, it's based on the number of API endpoints. It's based on the number of API requests made at some cases, right? So that's how it works.
Okay. Any other question, please?
So I think we can wind up the session. So I think it's been it's oversubscribed and over time, right? So we can wind
Yeah.
this up.
Paisha, we got one more question. It's like, what are security considerations when implementing GraphQL APIs as opposed to traditional RESTful APIs?
Could you come again on that? Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, of course, if you look at different API protocols like GraphQL, and of course REST API is the conventional one. So of course, we need to understand how that API and how that API parameters and how the messaging pattern works, right? So of course, it's a different setup. The typical way in which we secure REST API is not possible for the GraphQL APIs, right? So it's a different implementation altogether. So I think it's a broad topic. We can have a personal discussion, whoever wants to do that.
I have one small question. You see, some of the customers are already using WAAP, right? Now, adding these Prophaze solutions to them, I mean, don't you see that, I mean, double up such solutions will be added to it? I mean, besides the DDoS mitigation and the other things.
Let me tell you, I mean, that's a very valid question. So let me tell you, so let's say, we have all customers already having other WAAP solution. They only want API part because they don't want to, they already invested on a WAAP solution and they don't want to, again, so of course we have a separate module, the WAAP will come as a separate module. You need to buy the entire solution. The WAAP, the API security comes as a different solution altogether. So yeah, but in general, if you look at our 10 out of 8 customers, want to have everything all together in a single platform. I can see that, people subscribing to our API security solution, later on they are, renewing with Prophaze with the WAF and DDoS and all together as a web security platform. So that's a trend we are seeing right now. But to answer your question on a high level, of course, for those customers who already have a WAF, we can give this as a separate solution on an API security and API gateway part together.
Okay, and your solution is that, you see, I mean, suppose the customers are using multi-cloud environment, and each of the multi-cloud environments are having separate WAF. So if the customer goes for, say, Prophaze with the single console, give, I mean, that WAF application for all the multi-cloud applications?
Pretty much. I mean, that's one of the biggest USP of the product, that, the entire multi-cloud, private cloud, whatever, wherever your, the application sits down, a Prophaze can be installed as a unified solution. So you don't need to worry about that. It can be managed using a single dashboard. You can push rules to multiple cloud environments together.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so any other questions? So, okay, we can wind up now, and all of you are sincerely appreciated for participating, and you will receive all recordings via email. And please share your feedback as well, while we will be sharing to you. So now I'll invite Lakshmi for the closing remarks, please.
Yes, so thank you, Shruti. And so first and foremost, on behalf of the entire team at Prophaze, I would like to extend our sincerest gratitude for joining our live webinar. And we really, truly appreciate your valuable time and active participation in this event. So really, your thoughtful contributions made this webinar a resounding success. So our main goal was to bring more light and insights into API security aspects, and hope we did justice to this particular theme for today. So I'm really thankful to Mr. Baidyanath for bringing that really insightful and the practical demonstration part of API security, so that the audience really had an insightful takeaway from this particular session. And so, as already Shruti has told about, we would definitely love to hear your feedback about this webinar. So do write to us. So once again, thanking all of you for being an essential part of this webinar. We look forward to staying connected with you even in future. So if you would want to connect with us, do reach out to security@prophaze.com. And thanks to all the customers, distributors, partners, and all our well-wishers for their support for making this webinar a huge success. So wishing all of you all the very best. And with that, I would like to sign off, thanking all of you and wishing all of you a great day ahead. So let me wind up. Thank you all. So I guess we can wind up the session. So thank you, Baidyanath. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Lakshmi and team for putting up a great show. Thank you.